Where are you, David?
David, how are you?
Good, Frank. It's good to see you. I'm glad we could do this. And
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, I apologize for asking now, but I don't know that I will pronounce your last name properly. I was going to go for Santner, but I'm not sure that's correct.
That's really good. That's awesome. Santner.
Yeah.
Yes,
Santner,
you
good
got it.
deal.
Maddie, it's your turn to try it.
I was like silent T, maybe.
Pretty much a silent T. Santner.
Yes, as I have a very confusing last name to people, so I understand and just basically take whatever people say as
Kohler.
You got it. You got it.
See, this is the day here. We're batting 1,000 on names.
Yeah.
Great. Let me see if anybody has problems with the name. Probably not too many, right?
I get Terry David from good friends, and they don't even realize they've done it. And I always get a little chuckle. I don't really mind, but it's always the number of the running joke among my friends is that my real name is Terry David.
I could see people getting confused with that. So
Yeah.
look, no confusion every way around. I really appreciate you setting this up. I don't know how many are going to attend. Hopefully we get a lot. That'd be great. Do you have any idea?
I looked at the registration list earlier today, and I think we were in the mid-20s.
Okay. That's good, right?
Yeah. About half the states. So yeah, pretty good.
Half the country.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
That's a good thing. And then is it we're trying to create connections with as many of these states as possible. And then I have my contact information on the last slide. So I would like people to then reach out to me. We could tell them more about the retailers that we have in that state and what their goals are, because if they're trying to get to low income, we have retailers that focus only on low income, and maybe those would be the right ones, or whatever the case may be. If somebody says, we're really weak in rural areas, well, we've got retailers in rural areas, so we could just focus on the needs that they have.
Yeah, well, you have good visibility into those retailers, and I think that's a key benefit. One thing we'll do, obviously with your permission, but we'll post certainly the webinar, but the slides and your contact information, which this members visit the website a great deal. There's timely information posted regularly, so hopefully that will be helpful as well.
And yes, you can post the presentation wherever you would like, and recording it is great. Obviously, the end goal is that we do have retailers in every state, so we would like to have them involved in the program.
And I think if you're willing to make the offer on the phone of connecting folks with the retailers that are in their individual states, it could be really helpful, because I'm not sure if states know all of them that might be interested in this.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't know them, and if they try to reach out to them directly, they probably would not get anywhere. We have people that manage our membership, so we have, I don't know, 40 people across the country in the states that are managing those retailers and visiting them and have a relationship. So we would leverage that network to do this brokering. And we do that with all the other energy efficiency programs that we run. So that'll work just fine. This is exciting. For me anyway.
We love the topic. It's a love challenge topic, but we like it.
Nice. Now, the ones that attended the Energy Star meeting in Atlanta, you knew all of those? You knew everyone, or you probably know all of them anyway, right?
All the states that participated, yeah.
Yes. Because do the people that run the SEOs, is there a lot of turnover in those positions? Do they go into other departments, or they pretty much stay in?
Over time, many of the directors are appointed, and certainly other reasons that people change roles, but you do see over time a lot of transition. It typically comes following elections most often.
Yeah. A lot of things change after elections, right? Cool. That's awesome. And Maddie, are you staying on? You were going to hand it over to somebody else to do the forward the slides?
Yes, my colleague Jasmine's on the line. She's got the slides ready to go. And so when we get to, David will do opening remarks. But yeah, we've got your slides ready to go.
Perfect. Can't beat that. Awesome.
Okay. Maddie, do we want to give it another minute, or what do you think?
I think so, just in case people are running from one meeting to another.
Yeah.
I like all those pictures in your background there, David. Those are
our board members from over the years. Exactly.
okay. Wonderful. And how is your board set up right now? Is it?
We have our boards elected by the states in each of the 6 regions we have, plus an executive committee that's elected annually from typically they're comprised from current board members that then take on that role. So there are 18 total and that serve, and a number of board members on the call today, in fact.
Wow, 18 board members.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. It's a big crowd, that's for sure.
Okay. We should probably get started, Maddie. Should I jump in? Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining today, the states and territories on the phone. Frank and I were just chatting, for those of you listening in, but I'll back up a little bit. Frank and I actually met at the Energy Star Conference in Atlanta some months ago, and me primarily, are a little bit remiss in moving this webinar along sooner, but we're really happy to have it today. By way of a little background, Frank Sender, who is going to give today's remarks, their organization literally works with thousands of independent retailers across the country and installers in the appliance space, and very relevant to the rebate programs. Of course, not all states will choose to go through retailers for the program, or they may not choose to have their entire program through that, but many will. And the independent retailers, I think, for every office that we have spoken with that is interested in that space, are wanting to know how they reach some of those independent retailers and installers in their state. In some cases, their relationships. In other cases, we need to build those. And I think Frank can offer some important perspectives today, both on how to reach them, but also the kinds of things that they'll be concerned about, thinking about, that maybe won't be new. But I think the other maybe important piece is just the visibility that the nationwide marketing group that Frank represents can bring to virtually every state in this space, I think would be very beneficial. And I don't want to steal Frank's thunder, but again, I heard some of the conversation that he and I had both at the Atlanta Energy Star meeting, and since then, I really think there's a lot of value here. One little backstory that I think is worth mentioning: during the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, we worked very proactively with many independent retailers and some groups, and that was truly helpful in the rebate programs operated at that time. I think very similar in this case. The timing is good, and welcome today's presentation. And Frank, without further ado, look forward to your remarks, and welcome to the NASEO webinar and the states that are on today's call.
Great. I appreciate that, David. Appreciate the invitation, and I certainly really value being able to meet everybody that's on this call. I feel like our organization can really help because our retailers are highly vested in the cities and towns where they operate in. So if you just advance to the next slide to kind of give you a sense for what I'm going to cover here today. I think I've already, or David did the best job he could of introducing me. I'll tell you a little bit about our organization, kind of what we do. This is somewhat of a high level. Our company is over 50 years old, and we are a sizable organization that nobody's ever heard of. and then I'll tell you a little bit about the membership and kind of the programs and the ways that we support our retailers, because I think that'll help set the stage for how this could then play out into the Inflation Reduction Act programs. I'll tell you a little bit about some of the energy efficiency programs that we run today, and then we're going to talk about, you know, how do we take this forward? What are the partnership opportunities that we can explore? So if you go to the next slide. You know, we are this commerce enablement platform, which we're just trying to put some fancy words to what we do. We basically bring together a whole lot of parties and companies and partnerships to help retailers be successful. Independent retailers have seen, you know, there was a time before big box stores where they had 100% market share in the appliance business, as an example. And now the independent retailer only has about, when you add them all together, maybe about 25% market share. So they have lost the dominant market share, but they are also survivors in terms of they are very deeply rooted in the communities where they operate. Many of them that are part of our membership have been in business over 100 years, third generation, some are fourth generation. So they've got deep roots in the community, and they build their business around that community and kind of what works in the community. We do a fair amount of marketing. So this is to keep our retailers in business, and we help them. We own a couple different website companies. We own a digital marketing platform. So we're able to help our retailers sort of scale up their marketing without it costing them a fortune, because most smaller retailers don't have the kind of budgets to have retainers with ad agencies or anything like that. So if you go to the next slide. The way we position ourselves is that, as it says, we help our members thrive on their own terms. We recognize that independent retailers are not all the same. In fact, every one of them has distinct personalities. And what we do is we offer that bundle of business services, human resource services, everything you see on this slide, but we don't force our members to use any particular thing. So they can use the services that we've built and the third-party relationships we have, or they can use somebody else. The idea is, because everybody is different, they may have relationships with an insurance agent in their town, so they don't use the nationwide program, and that's fine, right? So they can succeed at their own pace and with their own terms. So go to the next slide. The way we are organized is that we've got 5,000 members, as you saw in an earlier slide, and that is made up of about 14,000 storefronts. This kind of gives you a sense for the breakdown of the membership in terms of the product categories that we're in. For this exercise, the Inflation Reduction Act, we're mainly focused on the ones that are in the home appliance business, which you see on the left-hand side with about 1,500 members. We do have a lot of members that are in multiple categories, and there should be I mean, if you click again, let's see if something comes up in the middle there, category portfolio. There you go. So this gives you a sense for some of the overlaps between categories. So, you know, pretty diverse, especially ones that are in more rural areas. They tend to be in all categories just because the town doesn't support multiple retailers there. We manage our retailers through these 8 different regions that you see on the right-hand side. And we have teams of people in every one of those regions. I mean, it's generally somebody in the state that runs members within that state. It's somebody that travels that state and helps the members understand and take advantage of the many programs that Nationwide has to make them more competitive. If you go to the next slide. So depending on where you're located, some of these names may be familiar to you. You got some there. I see Queen Cities in North Carolina, Rosner's and Jetson are in Florida, Standard TV in Oregon, Jeff Lynch in South Carolina. We got some there, and I see Oklahoma, I see Wisconsin. So they're all over the place. Brainscarf in Maryland. And these are the types of retailers that we're talking about. They tend to have a lot of the names are the names of the founders. So Carl's, that's employee owned. Elmer Carl is the one who founded that they're in South Dakota and many other states around there. So these are the kinds of retailers that are part of Nationwide Marketing Group. So you go to the next slide. Hopefully some of those names are familiar to you. So one of the things that we do focus on is making sure that we are giving back. And so give back is a big part of how we operate, operating in local markets and running give back programs is important. And it's something that we're very proud of everything that we've accomplished and making sure, especially with this No Child Hungry, as you see on the bottom left-hand side, that's the dominant area of give back. So basically, it's we leverage the No Child Hungry program. We bring together our members because we have big semi-annual meetings, and we have our members pack meals, and then those meals go to needy families in the area where we're having the meeting and to other causes that are kind of nearby. There's some cases where there's hurricanes, and then we send food to those areas. So a big important part of what we do is give back. Go to the next slide. Is that not advancing? So, we got all of these different types of programs that you see here. Some of them are financial in nature. Some of them are systems in nature. Some are advertising related, insurance related, video creation related. Because all of these are the services that are, some of these are nationwide, are services that we created in-house. Some of them are third party, but these are the things that the field team takes to the membership to try to get them to look at these services as being beneficial to their member. This is all outside of the merchandising. Like merchandising, that's where we started. But then since then, we've added to that with all of these different marketing and financial services to make our members competitive. So you see on the top left-hand side, Energy Star, because this is another area that we put a lot of value in. We've invested significant amounts of money in creating awareness within our membership about Energy Star. If you go to the next slide, you'll see the result of the efforts we put into within Energy Star is that we were Partner of the Year for Sustained Excellence in 2023, and that is this year is our 9th year winning the award for Sustained Excellence. So this is an area that we have significant expertise in. We work with both the EPA for sure, and some with DOE. We are plugged into all of the people that are involved in these kinds of activities, and therefore the Inflation Reduction Act is something that I've been involved in even right back to when it first launched, or actually even before it launched, when there were other previous versions that were in the review phase. So that kind of takes it from a lot of different services and a lot of members and getting a sense for who some of those members are to Energy Star, which is kind of where this relationship with you hopefully can begin. So if you go to the next slide, what you see here, this is to give you a sense for existing programs that we have today. And we really have them in 4 different flavors. And none of these are particularly tied to inflation reduction. It's just to make sure you understand that we have programs like the Energy Star Retail Products Program, which is the first one. We've been involved in that for 7 years. You get a sense there for the states that are involved in that program and the amount of money that is generated. So basically, these are dollars that are, most of the dollars are given back to our retailers. We use some of the money to do all the things to generate awareness and to create media related to Energy Star. So that's a big program that we have that passes money through to the consumer. So basically, we act as the middleman between the ESRPP team the retail products program team and our retailers. We provide a bunch of services to enable our retailers to participate in this program. The other programs that you see on there, it's really they're different. They operate differently. We have a fair amount of flexibility to run different types of programs, but the bottom line is they're all incentives that are designed to go to the end consumer for the most part. There's some administrative fees that get kept by the retailer, and these are programs that are usually run by a utility or a utility group, run through a utility contractor, the same people that I'm sure are trying to solicit your business, like ICF and Clear Result and Honeywell and Franklin Energy. So those companies use us behind the scenes for the distribution network that we have, which just happens to be the 1,500 retailers that are involved in the appliance business. It's dominantly appliances is of interest, but so you could see that for them to be successful, the utility contractors, they've got to find a way to get to the end consumers through retail, and in many cases we're the pathway to all the retailers because we have so many of them in our network. The one on the right hand side, the midstream with the invoice notification, so this is one that is included in the previous column called midstream, but the way it works is that there is an incentive that the utility is offering online, and they also want to try to, so online rebates tend to not work very well. There's a very, very low take rate on those. So in order to increase adoption, they want to use an incentive right where it's discount at the point of retail, just like the Inflation Reduction Act will be. But they want to make sure that that consumer is not able to then also file online for the same rebate they just got in store. So the invoice has to indicate that there was already a discount taken, and they can verify. If you try to do an online rebate, it requires a copy of the invoice. So we have over time been able to develop more sophisticated programs to make sure there's sufficient controls so the utility actually does get the savings that they project to get. So I just want everybody to see, okay, these are the programs, the kinds that we have today. And if you go to the next slide, in many of these I may have kind of gone over. When we're running these programs, what is the role that Nationwide plays? And really the role that we play is everything except selling the product. The retailers sell the product, but we provide the training about the energy efficiency program. We worry about the logistics, everything related to data management, submissions, uploads. We do all of that. And one of the things that is of particular help, I said earlier that we own 2 website companies and they manage about 2,000 websites. So as you can imagine, we have a very, very accurate product catalog for appliances. If there is an appliance in existence, it's going to be in our product catalog, because if it's missing, it'll get called out very quickly. So if a retailer is using our website, which most of them do, and they see a model number that's not on their website, they raise it immediately and it gets added. Also, our retailers are part of many new product launches. So as new models come up, they get added into the product database because we have direct relationships with Whirlpool and GE and Electrolux and LG, Samsung, Bosch, and everybody else, Beko. So we kind of have the plumbing, the infrastructure that enables us to run these programs on behalf of our retailers and run them efficiently. So if you go to the next slide, it takes us to this, which is the last slide, and the idea is to spend a lot more time on this because you definitely have needs. There's no question about that. In fact, many of the needs that you have you may not quite even understand all of the aspects of the needs that you have. What we offer is that we have many, many retailers in every one of your states. We have some examples is our retailers are for the most part in the delivery, installation, and many times service business. So they do repairs on appliances. As a result, they're connected to trades in the market. They also generally sell to builders, so they're connected with plumbers and HVAC contractors in a market. That's something that in a small town, you can't just show up and say, okay, I want to have a relationship with an HVAC company or a plumber. You kind of have to be somebody who they know, and our retailers know these people because they're involved in the same trades, or they basically leverage, especially plumbers, because when you do an installation of a washer or a dishwasher or a refrigerator, there's water involved, and sometimes pipes crack and it requires a plumber to come. And so that's why there's strong relationships there. It could be that one of your challenges is that you really want to focus on low income. And unlike, generally big box stores are focused on the middle of the market. They're basically looking for that fat middle. Yet we have retailers that focus on low income. We have retailers that the dominant share of what they do is low income. And so we're able to get to those consumers through those retailers. We also have a good number of retailers that are in rural markets. And so those rural markets, if those are important to you, we have ways to get to those consumers in rural markets. We have a pretty good understanding of how our retailers run their business. So there could be some things that you're thinking about, but you're not sure if this would work with retailers. We can help you with that, in terms of, is it something that would line up with the retailer, or is this something that you're thinking about that there's no way it's going to possibly work? We could get some of the retailers to provide feedback, because we have many retailers that are very interested in the Inflation Reduction Act. In fact, one of them just called just a little bit ago, and this is with Carl, South Dakota, the one that I showed you before. And he wants to understand more about the Inflation Reduction Act. How does he make sure that he doesn't miss the boat? And so they're in, they're North Dakota, South Dakota, they're in Iowa. I think they're also in Minnesota. So they've got a bunch of, I think they may have 70 locations or something. If there are IT requirements, when I showed you all of the different partners that we have, many of those were software companies that have point of sale systems that are used by our retailers. And we need to make sure that we have a good understanding of that. In fact, we're working right now with PNNL for them to create the API that they have created, to make sure that API will work with some of the larger point of sale systems that are used by our retailers. It could be that you have a strategy within the state that you want us to share with our membership. We have an intranet service that's basically proprietary for our members only, and communication goes through that intranet system. So we have a way to communicate with all the members in a single state with one, just this one posting, and not having to send it individually. And then lastly, I just mentioned is that we had this field team that's at least 40 people spread across the country. So obviously there's not one in every state because there's only 40 of them, but they would cover all of the territory. These are the same people that have done the training for the programs that I spoke about earlier. All the energy efficiency programs we run today, the training to the retailer is done through our field team. So these are just things that I came up with just to kind of get you to start to think, okay, how can Nationwide fit into our world? And what I'd like to do is kind of open it up to questions, discussion. Maybe everything I said is not, you're not really sure what we do, which is fine. Just, but I do want you to ask questions. At the end of this, I hope to have a relationship with with everybody that's on this call, that I would be able to help you get some of your challenges resolved. I did want to also call out that there is another group called NATEM. So there's Nationwide Marketing Group, and then there's NATEM. NATEM is a group of 12 very large regional retailers that they were not on any of these slides. They would consist of people like Nebraska Furniture Mart, people like PC Richard, RC Willey, ABC Warehouse, Electronics Express. These retailers, they had a meeting in September. It was basically their annual meeting, and they specifically said, we want me, to meet individually with each one of them and kind of explain the whole Energy Star and energy efficiency programs. And they are all very interested in connecting with you for this Inflation Reduction Act. I just had a call last week with Nebraska Furniture Mart, and they were, kind of sign me up. Tell me, how do we engage with the states? What do we need to do to enable that to be possible? I have a monthly call with PC Richard. PC Richard is in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. And they are part of the RPP program. They want, the monthly call is about updates on the Inflation Reduction Act. And again, how can they participate? I got them to get the documentation for the API to make sure that they understood how that works. Although I told them New York State may not even use the system being created by PNNL. They may use something different. So don't, go too crazy. But our members want to know how to engage with the program. And so I personally want to engage with you and do some things to help you out even before directly engaging them. I mean, I'm assuming most states will not launch until at least the second half of next year, if not later. So that's fine. We're not going anywhere. The more lead time we get to get the right things, the right possible structure with our retailers, the better off we're going to be.
Terrific. Frank, that was a great presentation, and thanks for your openness and willingness. And in a moment, I'm going to turn it over to Maddie to moderate any questions, add any questions of her own. But I did want to start with both a comment and a question. The comment part is maybe just kind of personal in that I come from a relatively small town, our independent retailer. I visit there frequently for an elderly relative, and I was home last year. I guess it was just sort of toward the end of COVID, and she needed a new refrigerator. And I called Frank's Sales and Service in Bowling Green and said, you provided the last one, but it's a kind of a strange opening size. It has to be a particular thing. And a few minutes passed, and they said, oh yeah, we have it on file. We have the opening size. We know what size you need. And it is that level of connectivity to the community, which I think is interesting about this. It's obviously important to give retailers an opportunity where states are using a retailer as part of their program, but that community piece, I think you pointed out, was resonated with me. I guess the quick question I have is, in terms of Nationwide Marketing Group, do you have for states in a follow-up some granularity? I guess I would call it demographics, but I mean in the sense of if I'm calling you from the state of X, and I'm looking to reach certain rural parts of the state or a particular urban community, wherever they may be, do you have reasonably good data most places about, okay, I probably should be reaching out to these particular retailers? Is that level of granularity something that you can help with?
Yes, we would be able to create a scattergram of where all the locations are in that state. So, I mean, we have the address, zip code for each one of our locations. They're in a system, so it's not a spreadsheet. This is way beyond that. And we know the volume for each one of them. We know the purchase volume. We have the sales volume for some of them, but we have the purchase volume for all of them. So we know where the bigger ones are. Most of the bigger ones, I've got personal relationships with them because I've been with Nationwide Marketing Group for 15 years. And through that time, have been able to connect with many of them. So there's ones where I wouldn't even need to go through somebody who manages that retailer. I'd just go to them directly myself and get whatever it is that. So I understand that everybody's needs are going to be different. We're okay with that. We have 5,000 retailers and their needs are all different. So we're singing from the same song sheet here, and we can do this. We absolutely know that your situation is unique, and we will create the right solution because I know we have that solution.
Deal. I'm going to turn it over to you, Maddie, for your questions or other questions.
Sure. If folks in the audience have questions, if you want to raise your hand or turn your camera on, I'll take that as an indication that you have a question. And also feel free to put any questions or comments in the chat and I'll share them with the group. My question that I have for you is on the slide where you outlined basically all the services that you guys make available for the retailers to be able to execute on these rebates. What would it take to use those? Would a formal relationship with the state be required, or is that something that's automatically offered to all of the retailers?
Oh, the slide that had 100 services on it, those are services that are offered to our retailers. They're not all necessarily tied into doing rebates. Those are to run their retail business. So in terms of so let's say outside of that, being able to run some type of program through the state with a certain number of retailers, we would decide on that depending on what the needs exactly are, whether nationwide marketing group needs to be part of that, or is it something that would be directly between the retailer and the state, is something we would have to understand the need first, because there are certain cases where when it comes to data management, our retailers they're not Lowe's and Home Depot, so they don't have the kinds of systems that those guys have. So we find that in order for the programs that we run today to have been successful, we've had to use our IT resources and through that and the matching against the product catalog that we have to know that these models are Energy Star certified or are Energy Star most efficient. And so if that ends up being a need, then we would have to be involved. If that isn't a need, then we would not have to be involved. It's a benefit to our members. So basically, we look at this as we want our members to succeed. We want David 10 years from now to be able to go back to that same retailer and get that same personalized service, somebody who understands the needs, which is, one of the biggest benefits of independent retail is the salespeople will take the time and will make recommendations, and those recommendations will fit the customer. And so that's just part of the puzzle. But in answer to your question, we would look at whatever the scenario is, and we'd figure out whether we need to be involved or not, and then bring the retailers to the table together.
My follow-up question is for these internal processes and also just for marketing and planning and all that kind of stuff. How much lead time would folks need in order to be ready for these people to start knocking on their doors asking for these products?
Most programs are launched in 90 days. Okay. So, because our retailer, if it's products that our retailers currently have, which, if you're looking at cases that are in the heat pump dryer category or anything related to cooking, they already have those products. We've been working and very focused on the water heating category. And so we now have a relationship with A.O. Smith, and our members can buy water heaters. They can buy heat pump water heaters. So this is a category that definitely takes consultation. It's not an easy putt. It's something that requires a level of trust and it requires an interaction with a plumbing contractor, so there's more involved there. And that's why we started going down that path. I think it was towards the end of last year. And we feel that heat pump water heaters will be a fantastic category in many of the markets, certainly markets in the Southeast. It'll be an exceptional opportunity. And we're currently working with a retailer in Portland, trying to get them to get involved in heat pump water heaters right now. There's got to be a bunch of questions
Yeah.
in people's minds, and it could seem like, wow, this question doesn't seem to be meaty enough. But I guarantee you, as soon as you get one person to ask a question, it'll lead to other questions and other questions. So have at it. I'm just going to look. Martin, I know, Martin, you've got something about this that's either intriguing or is a non-starter. Just what is it? Or
We have
maybe
a quiet group today. Sorry, I think, but it was a great presentation. Any other thoughts or questions from the group?
Hey, this is Amy. I'm from Washington State, and
Hi, Amy.
I always have questions. I guess from your perspective as independent retailers, like, I don't know if I have a fully formed question, but like, I want to make this as easy as possible for retailers and for contractors to participate. And so I guess, like, is there anything that keeps you up at night about these programs, or anything that you're like, oh man, I really hope the state doesn't do XYZ?
The way the program is kind of designed is just like the trailing credit programs that we currently run. The thing with the trailing credit programs that always becomes the Achilles heel is not getting paid fast enough. So we have that happen a lot, where the retailer, they provided an upfront discount, so they don't have that money, and they have to buy more inventory, but they didn't get all of the revenue yet. They're waiting to get it. So having a very quick turn on that becomes important. Also, then another thing that we've seen that definitely causes issues is when you change incentive amounts, and the exact timing of when that change happens to the systems, and the sale date versus delivery date, and returns. And so changing the program after it launches is something, or changing it multiple times is something that it creates reconciliation issues that we have a case that it'll be a year before we get this thing fully reconciled. And that's a negative to a retailer, because that's resources on their side and files they need to create and that sort of thing. So those would be the things: slow pay and changes that create reconciliation issues. Those would be the biggest ones.
Thank you for the feedback. Maybe one additional question for, like, right now, while states are kind of like wrapping their heads around how to design these programs, like, are there any resources that states should be developing for you, like, right now? I'm sure you're getting lots of questions, or your members are getting lots of questions from just consumers.
I get a lot of questions from retailers. Remember, my customers are retailers. So retailers, so Duarte and Bodie, okay, they're in Bellingham, Washington. They want to participate in this program. They don't know anything about it. They don't have any idea how you're going to set it up, when it's going to launch. So if I would find out from you, what does that look like? What are you thinking? Are you thinking the middle of next year? Are you thinking the end? Are you deciding that you don't want to include retail at all? I mean, that would be something important for me to know, to tell them, hey, you're not going to be able to participate. Or there's certain product categories that you're not interested in, or your income, you're going to decide on, you only want the low income, you don't want the moderate income. So those kinds of decisions that, as far as I can tell, each state has the ability to make those calls. that would be important. If there were certain retailers that you're trying to hit, like, let me help you find those retailers. And then, you know, one of the things that you definitely are going to want to do is have discussions with retailers before you launch the program, unless you decide you don't want retailers at all. But if you decide that you only want contractors, you realize that contractors and retailers work together a lot, especially our retailers, because they're all involved in the building business and working with contractors on that. So I would not advise anybody to say, hey, we're just going to work with contractors, because they could tell you right now, if you want the product to be sold, it's got to be seen, and somebody's got to speak about it, that they can actually convey value, and that this is a really good idea for you, and this is going to create energy savings. Contractors are there's not enough contractors out there already. So we've seen this with heat pump water heaters 100%, that they are just going to replace whatever was there before. The product failed. Person wants hot water right now. I'm not going to take a chance, even though there's all these incentives. I mean, I don't even know how to file them. You know, the contractors are much less organized than retailers, and many of them don't have the systems to be able to keep track. I'd say that the Inflation Reduction Act could actually put a bunch of contractors out of business, because if they lose track of a bunch of incentives that need to be coming their way, but they didn't do something exactly right, that is gonna hurt them.
Great feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. I like questions, if you haven't noticed. So Maria, you just came on camera.
Yes,
That means you
yes,
have
I used that hint that Maddie told me to use. You mentioned a retailer, Carl's, which is in North Dakota, along with many other places. But how do you anticipate these retailers being able to handle multiple programs? My program is going to be different than Minnesota's program, obviously. What are the barriers that we need to look at if we choose to do retailers, that we can make that so there's some collaboration there? So, you know, there was tossed out the coupon idea, and I have no clue how anybody's going to be able to make that work. But what do you recommend in that sense?
That would be a situation where I think you're going to want, this is where the connection would happen, that I would introduce you to the leadership of Carl's, and we would find out from them. You know, I think they used to use TylerNet as their point of sale system, and this is something we run into with the energy efficiency programs we run right now, which is that the system is going to only be able to do certain things. Is the system going to be able to accommodate something in one state different in another state? So maybe they have to set up the same SKU twice and attach a discount to one SKU. So let's say you decide on modifying the incentive. So the incentive in Minnesota is not the same as it is in North Dakota. That their system accommodate it? You know, usually there's a way, but somebody has to spend some time thinking about it. Then the salespeople have to be trained on it. So for all I know, Carl's may say, you know what, we're based in Gregory, South Dakota, and we're only going to do it in South Dakota. You know, they may decide to only do it in one state. That's possible. But this is where so let's say they operate in, it's either 4 or 5 states, that if we had the U for all of those states together, and then we met with Carl's, and then have a discussion about what are the possibilities with Carl's, considering they're in all these different states, and see where we land. Right? Because it's only by that type of collaboration that we're going to get to a good result.
Frank, there's a question for you in the chat from Dylan, who asks, any thoughts on coupons? Our understanding is that each retailer needs their own unique coupon type. Maybe this is a non-issue, but we're just curious if you've had thoughts on the topic.
Yeah, the coupon is really designed to make it be the equivalent of money, so that the retailer has, it's not the physical coupon, it's the coupon code that's unique, that identifies that it's worth $840. And so now the retailer can cash that in. So I'm not hung up on the fact that it's a coupon, it's the methodology. So it's, somebody has a point of sale system, when they run that transaction, that they have a way to take $840 off the purchase price of that heat pump dryer, and then have that $840 attach this sort of coupon code to it, and then send it to the state, so the state can validate that, yes, that's a valid number, and so we do owe the money. So, you know, it's those processes around connecting the pieces and making sure that the retailer gets paid as quickly as possible. Those require discussions. Those require, what are your system limitations? What are your, meaning, what's the retailer system limitations, and what's the state's minimum requirements for this? Because you know, when the program was originally designed, everybody said this has got to be so simple, so simple, so simple. And then they realized that, well, this program has got multiple control problems. This thing can, you know, we could get taken advantage of by many, many consumers. And then they started adding the controls later. Well, as they added more and more controls, the thing has become so tight that you're not sure that you could actually make it work anymore. And that's where we need to have discussions with retailers to understand the systems that they're using. How would they be able to accommodate the transaction, considering, you know, what they have today? So we would have to engage with the you know, operations manager, whoever run, or IT. Many of our retailers don't actually have an IT department. They have like somebody who wears multiple hats, and we would engage with those people and see how can we make this work. And so just see right here, this was the text that I received. Okay, so can you connect with Chuck, please, for an update on the IRA? So Chuck Bergen, Chuck Bergen, he's either the CEO or the CFO at Carl's. And so, you know, he's, what I want you to understand is there are people on the other side that want to meet with you. So hopefully you want to meet with them, and Nationwide is kind of the glue to bring the parties together. And then if Nationwide doesn't have to be involved after that, we did what we can. We brought the parties together. If Nationwide does need to be involved, we'd be happy to do that and make sure that the pieces that we need to do, that we're set up to do those.
And we've got a taker, Amy from Washington, asking for a map of the retailers in the chat, in case you don't see that, Frank.
I did see that. I'm going to make a note for that. But other people can have other things that they would like to receive or like to learn about, you know, either through me. I mean, I guess it would start through me, and then I will bring the parties to bear, so you end up being able to have a relationship with some of the retailers. I mean, Wisconsin, I see that's great, because we have a lot of retailers in Wisconsin. You know, we got Wisconsin covered like the cheese. I mean, it's so we got Washington, Oregon, Wisconsin, and this is Virginia.
So say you've opened the floodgates now.
Good. That's 100%. Nebraska. So we have Lincoln, Nebraska. We got Schaefer's. If you live in, you probably live in Lincoln. Have you heard of Schaefer's? Yes, perfect. Ron Romero is the well, I mean, his son is kind of taking it over, but he's a guy that I know well, and he is very interested. I mean, he specifically told me, as soon as you learn anything, let me know. So you're dealing with some very honest and great people when you're talking about independent retailers that want to make this thing work. And when you're not dealing with corporate executives or anything like that, this is local people just trying to make a business run. So I've got Washington, Oregon, Wisconsin, Virginia, Nebraska. So it's like a scattergram. And I will get these to you through David. Is that the best way to go, or through you, Maddie?
Yeah, through Maddie or myself, either one is good. And Maddie's usually faster, to be fair, than I am, which is terrific. And we will we'll make a point. We have regional calls with the states too, and I will make a point of pointing this out on the regional calls for folks in case they want to follow up, because I do think what I hadn't fully appreciated, frankly, before this conversation was I could see how states that wanted to work with retailers might strengthen the local retailer, certainly want to reach different types of retailers. It hadn't occurred to me the community connection and what that might bring to the equation for the state, which is maybe obvious to all the states in the call, but it wasn't obvious to me. So that was helpful from my perspective.
Yes, I couldn't say enough about the connection that our retailers have in their communities. I mean, there's the give back that I spoke about earlier, but there's way more other localized give back programs that each one of our retailers participate in, and that's what makes them part of the community.
And I was just going to add, for any states on the line that want to follow up later with requests for maps or anything else, you can send them to me, or you can also send them to Frank directly.
Right. So hopefully everybody caught the contact information. Maybe if you can go back to that slide, just so everybody, you could call me, text me, email me. We really want to connect as many of you with retailers as possible. So it's here, retailers in Wisconsin.
And maybe, Frank, if you want to put your email in the chat, people could hopefully copy paste that.
Right. Let me get to the chat.
And I'll keep my eyes open if anyone has any final thoughts or questions that you want to add to the chat or otherwise.
Yeah, hey Frank, this is Dylan. Kind of following up on that coupon. I guess the question was maybe more about the kind of POS and just capabilities. I know you've got tons of retailers, right? But in general, is it the situation that, we've had upstream programs in Wisconsin with lighting, right? Pretty familiar with a lot of folks probably. We did have some smaller outfits like True Value and Ace Hardware, right? That they participated. But I don't know, we didn't really have anyone smaller than that. And I don't know if, it's just more difficult to work with them, or was it a POS kind of software thing, or like in general, are they pretty much all capable of processing these?
The case of the lighting is that our retailers generally don't sell lighting. They don't sell lighting.
Yeah, we had to drop our lighting anyways.
Yeah, I know you had to drop, but they're not in that space. So it's not that they cannot accommodate it. They were never.
Oh, sure. Okay.
They just never even got to them. They've never sold light bulbs, and they have no plan to. I mean, they're generally involved in bigger ticket items and have a very professional sales force that's well trained, that understands the ins and outs of all the different kitchen and laundry appliances. And that's the path that they've taken. They're not I mean, I guess you do, I shouldn't say nobody sells light bulbs. It's possible that some do in more rural areas where there isn't even a hardware store there. And we actually have members that are members also of Ace Hardware. So we have Ace Hardware stores that decide to carry appliances, and then they join Nationwide Marketing Group to get access to Whirlpool and GE and Electrolux. So if you sell appliances, you pretty much have to join a group in order to get the programs that you need. And that's a well-established sort of thing. You join a group, then the group connects you with the right people at the manufacturers. So you sets you up with the inventory financing, so you don't have to have a whole lot of money to get started. So, all of those things fit together as being in the appliance business. So, in terms of can they accommodate a coupon code, I don't even really know the answer to that, because it's not something it's not a bridge that we've crossed so far. almost be sure that they can, because the POS systems that they use are used more broadly than just by our retailers.
That's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. I know I did see some emails come in as we've been speaking, and encourage others to, reach out to me in whatever way, shape, or form you'd like to, and we'll figure out, there's nothing, you stand nothing to lose. If it ends up that you realize that's not a path I want to take, no, my feelings are not going to be hurt. I'm here to represent our retailers and make sure that this opportunity called inflation reduction doesn't pass them by, that they have been, ample opportunity and to take advantage of it, and hopefully we could be the conduit to make that possible. That's my story. I'm sticking to it, right?
Great, thank you. I don't see any additional questions in the chat. So, David, any final thoughts for our last couple of minutes here?
No, I think that is it. And obviously the rural component, it was implied, we didn't talk about it, but that's an excellent question in the chat. And just a big thank you again, Frank, for your willingness to take questions, do maps, and the follow-up that I know will come. And we're a pretty word of mouth organization, so you will probably be hearing more from us. And I, again, appreciate your time and appreciate all the states for jumping on, and for Maddie for organizing all of this. Thank you.
Yes, I owe it to you guys for doing that, and we'll be in touch.
Sounds good. Have a good day now.
Everybody.
Thanks so much. Bye.